you get tired of people asking you what it feels like to be a woman CEO?
It is a question that gets asked probably more than it should.
Did your children treat you with more respect?
Come on, they're kids.
No,
So
they didn't.
my son very aptly reminded me last Mother's Day that your most important job is mom.
The government put some money into General Motors. Did the government get its money back?
I will tell you that at General Motors, we will be forever grateful for what the government did.
Your board of directors let you go in a driverless car?
If it's from General Motors, I think yeah.
Would you fix your tie, please?
Well, people wouldn't recognize me if my tie was fixed, but okay. Just leave it this way. All right. I don't consider myself a journalist, and nobody else would consider myself a journalist. I began to take on the life of being an interviewer, even though I have a day job of running a private equity firm. How do you define leadership? What is it that makes somebody tick?
Do you get tired of people asking you what it feels like to be a woman CEO of any company?
You know, I think I was surprised by it because I think when people started asking, it really was a reflection on the auto industry and what people thought of the auto industry. I'd grown up in it, and frankly, I wouldn't be sitting here today as the chairman and CEO if not 20 years ago, people hadn't taken chances on me to develop me. So it was a bit surprising, but now if I can be a role model for other young girls to pursue engineering careers or pursue math and science, that's a good thing. But it is a question that gets asked probably more than it should.
When you joined General Motors, you graduated from high school, you went running at the age of 18, did you ever expect you could rise up, that any woman could rise up to be the CEO at that time?
I think I had no even vision that it was something that I could achieve. I was studying engineering and loved it, so I was looking to pursue a career in engineering. So again, I've had just wonderful opportunities in my career to, as you said, work in so many different areas, great mentors, so I feel very fortunate.
When you were announced as a CEO, did you hear from high school classmates who told you they always knew you were terrific and were going to be the CEO? Did you get a lot of that? Or did you find people laughing at your jokes more? What happened after you became a CEO?
Well, I don't think I had any high school classmates that said we knew this was going to happen, but I have to say there was an outreach from people that I hadn't met or talked to in a while that were very positive. So it was really heartwarming, all the positive messages that I got from people that my path had crossed with them at some point in our life.
So did your children treat you with more respect after you got to be CEO, or no?
Okay, come on, they're kids.
No,
So
they didn't.
my son very aptly reminded me last Mother's Day that your most important job is mom.
Okay. So today, as you look at General Motors, what are the most important challenges that you face in running the company?
Well, right now, the auto industry, we are seeing more change than we've seen in the last 50 years. When you look at, just think about the cars you drive today and rewind 5 to 10 years ago. Think about what you do in your car. You want your smartphone connected. You have, a lot of safety features all around you. We're working on autonomous, and you're driving electric vehicles, or at least you have the option to. And so when we look at how the industry is being transformed, we're really changing the way people are going to get from point A to point B. So it's a very exciting time, but it's also, we're moving at a really rapid pace because we're competing with Silicon Valley.
Let's talk about autonomous cars for a moment. Autonomous is a euphemism for driverless cars, right? People don't like to say driverless because it scares people, or that's not true? No. So have you been in a driverless car? Your board of directors let you go in a driverless car?
If it's from General Motors, I think yes. And I actually have ridden in one of our vehicles. We have test vehicles now. They do have a safety. We call them a trainer in the vehicle. But I've ridden in the cars in San Francisco, and it's really quite astonishing to see what these cars are able to do. And we're seeing progress on almost a weekly basis.
So when you're in a driverless or autonomous vehicle, do you put your foot on the brake to stop it, or you get away from doing that?
Well, I do that when I'm driving with my children, so
Okay.
or riding, I should say. So I think it's just it's kind of trained response. But frankly, it's so smooth. Here's just one example. When I was riding in the autonomous vehicle, and if you think about when you come up to an intersection and you look up and the light is yellow, and you have to make a decision: are you going to kind of pick up the pace and go through, or are you going to come to a stop? And do you have enough room? An autonomous vehicle has sensed exactly when the light turned yellow, knows, can it maintain speed and go, or should it stop? So really that's one of the benefits of autonomous vehicles is they're processing all the information around them actually more safely than, if done right, than we can as drivers with all the different things that we're taking in.
Okay, well, the other phrases that come about lately is one is ride sharing. What is ride sharing?
So ride sharing is, think about it as Lyft or Uber when you are just similar to a cab. You're looking to get a ride from someone, and so you're going to do ride sharing versus car sharing is you're going to actually have a use of a car, whether it's a day, an hour, a month. And we're participating, we have a stake in Lyft where we're participating in ride sharing. And then we have our own company, Maven, that is now in 16 cities across North America or across the United States where we're doing car sharing.
So car sharing, you mean you drive the car for a short period of time and then you give it back to somebody or something like that?
Well, for instance, we have in the city of Ann Arbor, we have cars stationed and you go online on an app and you reserve it. And when you get to the car, you use the app to unlock it, drive it, and then either return it or we have now some services where you can drop it off in a different place.
So if everybody is using car sharing or ride sharing, won't there be fewer cars sold? Is that a good thing for General Motors?
Well, I think there's been a lot of studies of, is it going to be more cars or less cars? Because think about some of the people who can't drive right now, whether you have some physical limitation that doesn't allow you to drive a vehicle or youth. So we think, first of all, we're going to open up to a lot of people who can't drive or have the personal mobility or freedom of mobility that they don't have today. Also, these vehicles in these sharing environments, they're driven much more frequently, so many more miles traveled.
Now, last year you sold roughly 10 million cars, which is a record amount, I guess. So, but some people say a lot of cars are being sold because gasoline prices are low and people are therefore buying big cars and not worried about the cost of gasoline. Is that your experience, that people are buying these cars because gasoline prices are low, and if gasoline prices come up, you think there's going to be a problem in car sales?
Well, I think, right now we're already seeing a shift, specifically in the US, but across the globe, of people moving to SUVs and to trucks, just because from a functionality perspective. So we're already seeing that shift. I think what also has happened over the last several years is even trucks and crossovers that were maybe not as efficient as a car have become much more fuel efficient. So we believe in having a wide portfolio. What we've really seen now with low gas prices is people are going into maybe an up-level model of a vehicle or maybe one size bigger. So they definitely are investing the money they're saving from the gas savings into the vehicle. But that's one of the reasons we have a full range product line. We'll adjust based on what the customer wants.
When people go in to buy a car these days, who are the real decision makers? Is it the woman or the man in a relationship that actually makes the decision? Do you know?
Well, actually, we have data on this, and over 80% of purchase decisions are either made or influenced by women.
All right, and when people are buying a car and the salesman goes back and says, I have to talk to my manager to see whether I can do this, do they really talk to their manager, or are they just...
Well, so first of all, and there's several dealers in the room, so I hope I get this right. But so first of all, our dealers are independent operators. So they have the ultimate control on what price they sell a vehicle for.
Everything has all the options now. Are there still some options that are optional that you can add on that people like? What are the biggest options?
We are creating options every day. One of the things we just put out, and this isn't an option, but it's one of the most recent additions we put into our vehicles, is Teen Driver, is a Teen Driver package. So, and it comes standard, for instance, on the Chevrolet Malibu, and it's a package where then you can monitor how the child's driving from a speed, but also from a acceleration, deceleration. So you really can get a sense of how safely your teen is driving. I would also say just the rear seat detector.
What age does that go off? In other words, it can go to 21 or 22 or 25?
Well, it's really who owns the control of the account on the car. So.
I see. And what about texting? Obviously, it's been a problem that some people are texting and driving. Is there not an option that you can keep people from driving if they are texting?
You're absolutely right. Distracted driving, I believe, is now surpassing as the most common cause of injuries. And actually, very disturbingly, in the last year, we had been, fatalities in the United States have been going down, and now they're starting to go up. And I personally haven't reviewed all the data, but distracted driving is a big piece of it. There's interlocks that we can do, but really, I think we need to educate the public of, that message can wait. There's things that we've done to integrate it so it can be, a voice can come over and read your text. It can be right on the main screen on the console of the vehicle, because when you're holding your phone looking down, that's one of the worst things you can do. So we're trying to put technologies in place to make it better, but distracted driving is a real issue, and I think we all have to take responsibility and address it.
You are a member of the President's Business Advisory Council, and when he had his first meeting, you were sitting right next to him. So what is Donald Trump like?
So I would say it was a very productive meeting where we could, share our views.
Let's say on the weekends you're driving around. You drive yourself on a weekend? Okay, so what kind of car do you drive? You test out the Ford products or Mercedes-Benz, or you ever test your competition?
Actually, I do. I usually drive competitor models at our Milford Proving Ground. And anytime we go out to drive and test one of our new vehicles, we usually like to line it up against the competition and really know how we're performing. In fact, the head of product development does that every Friday afternoon with a team of engineers. They go out and test vehicles and they drive it against the competition. So I've had the opportunity to do that. Right now, I'm driving a Cadillac XT5, but one of the best parts of this job is I can generally drive, I can ask for whatever car I'd like.
And so when you're driving your car, any color you want too, right? So you're driving, let's suppose you're driving around Michigan on the weekend and you need gas. Do you go pump it yourself? And
Yep, absolutely.
And does anybody say you're the CEO of General Motors, you shouldn't be pumping your own gas, or they don't say that?
Well, in Michigan, it's kind of self-serve, so it's just between you and the pump. It's the credit card.
Okay. So if there are any of your competitors' models you actually would recommend, that suppose somebody said, I just don't want to buy something General Motors, anything you recommend or not really?
I think that is a really important question. But, when I look, and maybe it's because I ran product development for a while, so whether you're talking about a Chevrolet Spark or a heavy-duty pickup or, a Cadillac Escalade, I really feel we've worked hard to have a vehicle for every segment. We've worked hard to improve quality, to have the right features. So I guess I can honestly say across our wide portfolio of vehicles, we've got you covered. And I mean that in all sincerity. I really feel we've worked hard to do the right thing for the customer and have great vehicles.
If I had said I want to buy a General Motors car today and I have $50,000, what would you recommend that I do?
Oh, a lot of vehicles you can buy for $50,000.
Well, I suppose 30,000.
So we had a 30. You can buy this vehicle right here, the Bolt EV, after federal incentives for under 30. You can get our entry-level Camaro, so if you have a need for speed, the Camaro is a good one. Or the GMC Canyon, or the Colorado, the Chevrolet Colorado midsize pickup truck. Again, these are all products that have won a lot of awards and are great to, great depending on what your use is.
Suppose I want to just go fast. I just want to go fast. What's your fastest car?
Oh, it's a Corvette.
Corvette. So
although now the Camaro, the latest edition of the Camaro is giving it a run for its money. So either one, you'll far surpass your need.
I thought we might go around the room. Mary and I met last week. We had a fantastic meeting on the auto industry.
You are a member of the President's Business Advisory Council, and when he had his first meeting, you were sitting right next to him. So what is Donald Trump like?
Well, I have to say we had a very productive meeting. It was we were able to really talk about some of the issues and challenges that our industry and our company is facing, especially as we look at changes that may occur in tax and trade and regulatory. So I would say it was a very productive meeting where we could, share our views. The administration and the president really listened, and it's early days, but seemed to be very action-oriented.
So your business is very profitable in the United States, not as profitable in Europe, not as profitable in Latin America, but fairly profitable in China. Is that right? So why are you so successful in China? Do you manufacture the cars there?
Actually, yes. We manufacture several vehicles there. But I think it goes back to the Buick brand is a very strong brand. It had a rich history in China of driving some of the Chinese officials around back in the 20s and 30s. So great brand. We've been able to also grow the Chevrolet brand, and then Cadillac. Cadillac, it's one of the fastest growing luxury brands. And we build many of the products in country there.
You used to have a lot more brands at General Motors. You used to have Pontiac, it's gone away, and Oldsmobile. So now you have Chevrolet, Cadillac, Buick, and GMC. Are those the main ones in the United States?
Yes.
And of those, Cadillac, for example, that's your premium, right? So it also makes the presidential limousine, which is like bomb-proof or something. Have you ever been in that car? You've seen what it's like? Is it a test model, or you can't comment on?
I really can't comment on that.
All right. Okay. I guess an average person couldn't afford to buy something like that, probably. Probably not. Okay. You joined General Motors. It was a dominant company in the United States, and then it went south for a while. What was the atmosphere like when you were working there?
You know, clearly it was very difficult. You know, there's across the globe we have 220,000 people. The restructuring event was primarily a North America event, but that's 100,000 people that we employ today. So it was a difficult time, but I think that's where you saw the resolve. And one of the things that I really think is so special at General Motors is the men and women of General Motors. I mean, they worked so hard through that period, doing in a very short period of time what needed to be done to get the restructuring completed.
The government put some money into General Motors. Did the government get its money back in some form or another over the years?
Well, I think there's a couple points. There was a portion of what the government provided that was loans, and then they had some ownership in stock. We paid back the loans, and then the stock piece, they chose when to sell it. But I would also say, so if you go bookkeep, there is a difference there, but when you look at the jobs preserved and created, because we've invested billions of dollars in the U.S. since that time to either create or maintain jobs, I think from that perspective, I think has been successful. I will tell you that at General Motors, we will be forever grateful for what the government did.
When you meet with members of Congress, do they understand your issues?
There's a willingness to have a discussion and seek to understand how our business operates, how we create jobs, and what leads to
None
success.
of them ever say, can you get me a discount on a General Motors car? They never
Well, we
mention
can't
that.
for government
You
officials,
can't do that,
so,
okay.
yeah.
But what about for people interviewing you? Can you do that? Other than a woman running the company, what is it that makes it so successful now and it wasn't so successful 10 years ago? What's the major difference?
Well, you know, I think a lot of it's not like it's a switch on and off. I mean, there were some things that the company realized, and we were already restructuring, changing the culture, looking at how did we have the right capacity. You know, that work that was going, but I think, you know, through some great leaders, and my predecessor is sitting at the table here, you know, really put a focus on the company of excellence and putting the customer at the center. You know, what we said is we don't win until the customer says we win. And I think that customer focus piece and then deciding what we could be good at and what we shouldn't be doing, that kind of focus and discipline has what's guided us since that time.
Now, your workforce is largely unionized in the United States, is that right? But you're competing against companies in the United States that often are not unionized, is that right? So is there a big differential now or any longer between unionized workforce compensation and non-unionized?
There still is a bit of a gap there, and I think that's something that we continually work on. But I would say the focus with our UAW partners, and we have a very productive relationship of working together first on workplace safety, on quality, and on productivity.
When you meet with members of Congress, do they understand your issues very much, or they really don't understand your issues as much as you think they should?
There's a willingness to have a discussion and seek to understand. There has not been a single member of government that I've met that hasn't wanted to understand how our business operates, how we create jobs, and what leads to success.
None of them ever say, can you get me a discount on a General Motors car? They never
Well, we
mention
can't
that.
for government
You
officials.
can't do that,
so,
okay.
Yeah.
But what about for people interviewing you? Can you do that?
If you're not a government employee, I think we can work
Okay,
something
all right,
out.
okay. So corporate tax reform has been talked about, and do you favor corporate tax rates going down, and how would you propose that the president or the Congress pay for that?
Well, you know, we are in support of corporate tax reform. There's a lot of moving pieces in it. If not done very thoughtfully, could be problematic. So, you know, it would take a period of time to make adjustments to that. Oh.
Mike? Working.
So there's you know, so what we're asking for is we support tax reform, but it's got to be done in a way that doesn't have unintended consequences and understand businesses like the auto industry that are very capital intensive and long lead.
Okay. When you deal with members of Congress, are you promoting any particular project right now?
Well, I think one of the areas is in the regulatory area. We still are, you know, very much committed to the environment. In fact, we're the only OEM that has made a pledge, but by 2050 we'll use all renewable energy. We believe in the science. I would also say, you know, very pro on education. One of the three things the company really works hard on is safety, education, and then, you know, economic development in all the regions where we work. And from an education perspective, and I reside out in the Southeast Michigan, so Detroit is a big concern, the education system there. So I think there's things that we can do, government, state, local, and federal government working together to improve the education system.
Now, talking about education, if somebody graduates from college now, why should he or she want to work in the automobile industry or specifically at General Motors? Why is it a great career path?
Because it's like the most exciting time ever. I mean, when you look at cars, trucks, and crossovers, it's usually the most important or the second most important purchase a person makes in their life. And so to get to be a part of that, I mean, people name their cars. So it's such an exciting thing to be a part of. And then the fact that we're being transformed by technology with connectivity, which we have a leadership role in, electrification, autonomous, all areas where General Motors is among the leaders or leading. It's a very exciting time.
Obviously, you have risen up, but are there many other women who are likely to become CEOs or very senior executives in the automobile industry, or is it relatively rare?
I can't speak outside of General Motors, but I would say, we have women leading major areas of the corporation. Our head of global manufacturing, our head of the all electric products, our head of tax. There's many areas across the company where women are leading. And that's a commitment we have to diversity, and you have to have a strong pipeline. And just because I sit here now doesn't mean without continued focus on diversity and really understanding biases, because we all have biases. So we have to understand those biases, and that's something we spend quite a bit of time on as part of General Motors.
Now you have all these employees, 220,000. Do you tweet to keep them informed about what you're thinking on the hour in the day, or not?
So I have a Facebook account, and I do have a Twitter account, and I have found, for those of you wanting to communicate with your organization, I have found it to be an extremely effective way to communicate and just share what's going on, and also interact with employees that are doing great things and capture that either on my Facebook or on my Twitter account. So I find it a very effective way to communicate.
So you've been CEO for a relatively short period of time, so there's plenty of years to go, but eventually, some point, CEOs do retire, that's what they say. So when you do retire, what would you want to do afterwards? Do you have any thoughts? Would you go in the government? If the president called you now and said, I'd like you to be secretary of this or that, would you go in?
I would not, because I have, first of all, a job to do for many years. Hopefully, I serve at the pleasure of the board, but at General Motors. And I'm so excited about the technologies that we're working on. And I would say, when I'm done doing that, I'm probably going to focus on sleep.
Okay. So the two main companies, I guess the three main companies in Detroit that are manufacturing automobiles, Chrysler, Fiat Chrysler, Ford, and General Motors. Do you ever run into the other CEOs very often in Michigan or in the shopping centers or wherever you go, or very
not so much at shopping centers. I might have a different shopping pattern than they do, but I like to shop. But I would say at events, clearly at events, whether it's the Detroit Grand Prix or at meetings such as this, often, we'll be in the same place.
So for relaxation, other than retail therapy, which you've called it once, what do you do? Are you a golfer? Do you ski? What do you do?
Well, I would say, at this point, a lot of my free time has been dedicated to going to my children's sports. Hockey, soccer, cross country, football. So I'm a hockey mom and a soccer mom, and I've watched a lot of sports. As that chapter ends, I am starting to take golf lessons, and that's probably all the time I have time for right now.
I would suggest miniature golf. It's less frustrating.
I like that. Yeah.
It's less frustrating.
That is a good suggestion.
So when you're watching your kids' sports, do you tweet while you're doing that so you can get things done? You can be on your emails and watch their sports, and they don't know that you're emailing while you're watching them?
Well, I would say when they're on the field, I'm watching. If they're not playing, I'm probably on my phone.